We're entering the Damascus Governorate building. First it was trashed. Now it's being recreated by the new authorities. And those who used to work here don't know whether to be excited or terrified. This opulent office is the headquarters of a 36-year-old former fighter who used to run the rebel enclave of Idlib. Now Deputy Minister of Administration, he has to figure out how on earth to rebuild Syria.
It's catastrophic. It's ruins.
It's in ruins.
It's in ruins. The institutes, the ministries, the bureaucracy. It's really a third world country, literally. I think only North Korea is worse than us.
At the moment, HTS is regarded as a terrorist organization by Britain, by America, and so on.
So we are the salvation government, and now we're in a transitional phase. Yesterday, the new government was introduced with the new ministers, and now we're the Syrian country. It's no more the revolution. We've won, and now we're the country. And everyone was welcome to be part of what we are trying to build in this country. They're technocrats, they're Syrian people. HTS it's part of many fighting groups. They will all be dissolved, as they said by their own words. They will dissolve under the one Minister of Defense. There will be no more groups.
The office is full of supplicants, none of whom, of course, ever really supported the old regime. Well, that's what they've come to tell him, including one of the country's most famous actors. You said you loved Assad. Why have you changed your mind?
هي عم تسألك إنه أنت بالماضي كنت تأيد الأسد وهلأ شو غير لك عقلك؟
أنا ما كنت عم بأيد، لو بأيد الأسد كنت أنا ما بعت سيارتي لحتى أتعالج. أنا صار لي 4 سنين ونص 5 سنين عم طالب جوازات سفر لأحفادي ما عم بقدر أخذهم. إيه.
In another office, civil servants have come to see if they can get their jobs back. Women have been assured that their new Islamist bosses will let them hold senior positions.
نحن حاسين في تطور بعقليتهم واكيد يعني النساء مع الرجال رح نرجع نعمر سوريا وتصير احسن من قبل.
We drove through the gates into the grounds of Assad's former palace, one of many luxurious residences he and his family used to occupy. Brought flowers, except for me. Ah, you are very kind. Thank you very much. How are you?
Welcome to Syria.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here. We came across a group of men who, like us, just wanted to take a look. In one of the courtyards, they all recorded the moment on their mobile phones. A modern ritual that sounded like a religious incantation. The palace has been picked clean by fighters and members of the public, as many would see it, not looting, but righting a historical wrong.
يعني كان سارق الشعب كله، العالم كلياتها جوعانة وعنا العالم متشردين ونحن خصوصا في إدلب.
Normal, not normal. Same streets, different dispensation. All changed utterly. Such are the strange days after the fall of the dictator, when everything seems possible. And no one can quite believe that what they're seeing is real.
And Lindsay is with me here in Damascus on another jaw-dropping day.
Krishnan, what was so surreal was at the end of that interview with the Deputy Minister for Administration, he turned to me and said, so what do you think we should do about getting recognition from the British government and so on? And I said, well, you know, rights of women, that's important. Oh, yeah, he said, rights of women. So we had a little discussion about that and all the other things that they needed to do to convince Western governments that they were not crazy jihadis. So on the one hand, that's going on, this rather sober thing. On the other, down in Latakia, which is the heartland of the Assad clan, militiamen were setting fire to the tomb of Hafez al-Assad, that's Bashar's father, who ruled for decades, and his brother Basil, who was killed years before in a car accident. So we see these two things going on at the same time, this desire for vengeance, which is understandable, a sort of lack of control, we're still hearing shooting in the air, and at the same time, this desire to become a recognised and respected government in the world.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, the most powerful militant group here, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, swept Bashar al-Assad from power at the weekend with its lightning-quick offensive. Syrians and the international community are wondering whether it has grown away from the hardline Islamist brutality of its roots and whether it will honour its promises of tolerance for different religious groups. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Porrick O'Brien, has been speaking to HTS's political spokesman here in Damascus, Abeda Arno.
What is HTS? What is the organisation?
Hayat
Tahrir al-Sham was a group aimed at continuing the revolution and overthrowing the criminal Assad regime. It was one of the many groups that made up the Syrian revolution, which had many factions. But we believe that Hayat Tahrir al-Sham was a past phase. Now we are at the end of this phase and the beginning of a new one.
Do you have a timescale for elections?
Currently, we are in the 3-month interim phase before forming a new government. These are the steps we are working on. It is still too early to talk about the details of how that government will be formed. Now, we have to focus on reactivating Syria's institutions.
Can I get your reaction to these Israeli airstrikes? We've had over 300 now.
Our priority is to restore security and services, to revive civilian life in institutions and care for newly liberated cities. There are many urgent parts of day-to-day life to restore: bakeries, electricity, water, communications. So our priority is to provide those services to the people.
I understand it's not your priority, but are you honestly telling me that you have nothing to say about Israel striking 300 sites in this country?
Have no doubt, we want everyone to respect the sovereignty of the new Syria. This point is very important to us.
Yesterday we were in Sednaya prison and heard stories of awful atrocities. Thousands murdered, thousands tortured. How will you guarantee justice for the families of those people dead or missing?
Thousands of Syrians were tortured and killed in these prisons in ways that the human mind cannot fathom. We will pursue the criminals through the courts to restore the rights of the families. These infamous prisons will be closed and not reopened. They will remain a dark memory of Assad's criminal regime and a curse on Bashar al-Assad and those who collaborated with him in torturing the Syrian people.
Do you have a plan for exactly how you will bring the Assad regime to account here?
We will use the best legal and human rights professionals to establish a process under international norms and laws to prosecute the Assad regime through witnesses, documents and evidence.
Yesterday at Sednaya prison, we saw some very extreme anger being directed at the Alawite community. What guarantees can you give the Alawites and other sorts of minorities in terms of their own safety now?
Yes, we have given public statements to reassure all sects, including Christians, Kurds, Druze and others. We also sent a message to the Alawite community that they should be safe from any targeting on an ethnic, racial or sectarian basis. So we are taking several steps. On the one hand, we reassure the Alawite community, and on the other, we tell those who have suffered oppression that the revolution has now triumphed and we do not wish to enter a new phase of revenge.
You're talking plurality and protecting minorities, but of course the background to HTS, everyone knows about the affiliation to Al-Qaeda, etc. How do you expect the international community to believe that your organisation has genuinely transformed itself?
This organisation represents a third way, meaning it is not Al-Qaeda, it is not ISIS, but rather a third path, a national revolutionary path.
أنتم في الغرب.
Perhaps you in the West think of the dark image of ISIS, which embraced killing and gave a criminal, negative portrayal to the Syrian revolution. But the Syrian revolution in reality is a revolution of truth, of justice, that aims to liberate all of Syria. This is what we aspire to, and we are now beginning the plans for a new era of state building, institutions and governance.
And Porrick is with me now. Now, we set up here some way from Umayyad Square because the noise of the crowds was deafening and they're firing celebratory gunfire into the air and there's been fireworks. But you spent the day down there, Porrick.
Yeah, we did. We actually interviewed that HTS spokesperson in the old state broadcaster building which overlooks the square. It was interesting in that interview. He really came across as a pro. You know, if you were the international community or if you're a Syrian worried about the future, he didn't put a foot wrong. Now, of course, the challenge will be, how will that rhetoric rub up against real governance and all the kind of sectarian plates that are potentially spinning here? The celebrations continue down in the square, partly because the curfew has been lifted. Earlier today, it was in full flow, that celebration. I must say, for myself, it was probably the first time I got a real sense of what all of this means, particularly for young Syrians. On Umayyad Square today, there were scenes. This placed the setting for so much of Syria's story. On other days this week, the celebrations here, men shooting into the air. But today felt more like Family Day. And they came out in their thousands. People like Shamna, who grew up under a regime where hands and tongues were tied, now with a lot to say.
Now I can't explain what I'm feeling. There is a mixture feeling because I feel happy, I feel freedom. It's the first time since I was born I feel freedom. Freedom is a big word, it's a big word, we can't feel it in all of our life. Now we feel that we are free here in Syria. We can say whatever we want. We can see you. It's been a long time since we saw good people from other countries. Wallahi, it's been a pleasure for us meeting you and seeing you here.
She wasn't the only one who wanted to talk. Sajud is 10. Her story? She never met her dad because of Bashar al-Assad.
Bashar al-Assad took my father when I was in my mum's belly. We haven't heard anything about him for the last 11 years.
Here is her mother.
He was disappeared by one of Assad's notorious military intelligence squads.
I was told the 2015 took him.
You couldn't help feeling that people like Sajud, who spoke of trauma through a smile, deserved today. People don't really know how all of this is going to pan out, and of course there is anxiety. But the feeling you get here on this square today is a window of euphoria, and the people here are allowed to enjoy that. There was an array of militants in the crowd on the square today as well. What sort of Syria they want, time will tell. The people we spoke to, though, want one where people can talk, where people can breathe.
Well, I'm joined now by Ismail Al-Abdullah from the White Helmets, which is the volunteer emergency rescue service which has been operating in opposition-controlled areas of Syria for years through the war. Thank you for joining us. What does this revolution mean to you?
It meant that we have our freedom of speech. Now we can practice our rights without fearing. And now, after the falling of the regime, now after the experience, the big experience actually of the regime bombing and killing Syrians all over the past years, now no bombing, no displacement, no fear, no chemical attacks, no victims of the no atrocities. It means a lot for us, for all Syrians.
Now, for years, people have been seeing the videos by the White Helmets from your helmet cameras as you've been digging people through out of the rubble. Now the war, it seems, is over in most of Syria. What is your role now? What is the job of the White Helmets?
Our job will be, we'll focus on rebuilding Syria. Now we have large areas that contaminated with the UXO ordinance. This will take a lot of time to clear those unexploded ordnance. And we will focus on removing the rubble that caused by the bombing over the past years. We have the health program. The health system in Syria already fragile, and now we have big responsibility. We have the biggest fleet of ambulance, and now we operate in all Syria, not just in Aleppo or in Idlib. Now we have Homs, Hama, Damascus, Deir ez-Zor. All those provinces need our help. So our role now is bigger. Our responsibility is bigger than before.
So you will be part of the emergency services of this new state?
Yeah, our role, will be maybe the main side, the main party of the receiving the emergency and responding.
So you in the north have had to work with some of these people who are now forming this national government. What are they like to work with?
Yeah, we work independently since the establishment, and we will continue that. Now the new government, if the government with that will give us our freedom and the working, of course we'll have this coordination with the government that will establish after March.
Now, as you know, I mean, there have been lots of allegations laid at the White Helmets that you were not just working under the control of these sorts of groups, but that you were hand in glove, that some of you were White Helmets one day and then militants the next. What's your answer to those allegations?
Our answer, what's happened, that Russia over the past years attacked us, attacked our volunteers, killed more than 300 of volunteers, that majority of them by the double tap. Our evidence, documenting the evidence, in that time, our answer and the fall of the regime and what Russia did to the White Helmets over the past year is our answer. They attacked us because we were documenting. And we will continue on this. We will continue to have justice for all victims. We will keep working on justice and accountability.
But given that your people are mostly drawn from one community, how will you be able to serve the whole of Syria, which is many communities?
The White Helmets, when we started in 2014, we started from Damascus and countryside of Damascus. Deir ez-Zor, Homs, Hama. We have volunteers from all the provinces, most of all the provinces. Now we are back. Who were displaced from Damascus and the countryside of Damascus now are back, and now we are operating since yesterday. Homs, the same thing. The volunteers who were displaced from Homs are back. Hama, the same thing. The volunteers who were volunteered in the countryside of Hama back in 2014, now they are back to serve their people, to help their people. So how we can do this? From our volunteers who are from all the provinces and the new provinces.
But are they from all communities? I mean, are you saying to Shia, Alawite, Syrians and Kurdish Syrians, come and join
all
us?
Syrians, we have from all Syrians. Our offices have all of Syrians, not just from one area.
And how will you fund yourselves now? I mean, there was some foreign funding in the past, wasn't there? So, will Syria's government now be able to fill that gap?
We hope that. We hope this is our ambition. This is our hope in rebuilding Syria once again, to receive the funding from the government and be from the state, not receiving from here and there. And this is our hope, but it's not working. We'll keep our way of working.
And to people who fear that this may fall apart, what is your message to them?
We will work every day and every single day to rebuild Syria. Have faith, and we will do it.
Thank you very much.